everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Expert, and I'm excited to enter or to have another great guest on another episode. And just diving right in, we're going to talk about a few great topics, including do I need a blog? Do I need to be on all the social media platforms? How does AI relate to my business? What should I be doing about AI? And otherwise, just have a great conversation. And we're going to be doing that with this week's guest, Paige Arnof-Fenn, and looking forward to a great episode. So, with that much as a quick introduction, welcome onto the podcast, Paige.
Thank you, Devin, for having me. It's great to be back.
Absolutely. And for a quick reminder to the audience, Paige was on our sister podcast, The Inventive Journey. So you can definitely go out or go catch her episode there to about her journey of getting to where she's at today. But for those that haven't had a chance to catch that episode, maybe just take a minute or two and introduce yourself to the audience.
So I started a global branding and digital marketing firm about 24 years ago, and I've been in marketing for a long time. I started off my marketing career in big corporate marketing jobs. I ran marketing at three venture-backed startups, and then I hung out a shingle a little over 24 years ago, and I've loved marketing. We help small businesses and organizations do a better job, do a great job of telling their story.
Well, awesome. Well, definitely a great area to be in, and looking forward to hearing all the expertise that you have to share. So, I'm always looking to dive right into the meat and the potatoes of things. So, one of the things that we talked a little bit about in one of the topics for today.
Whoops, you're on mute. Devin, you went mute. Devin, can you hear me?
I apologize. I hit mute when I tried to bring make sure it stayed on the front of the video. So what I was going to say is one of the I always like to get into the meat and the potatoes to make or to have a great conversation and dive into the expertise. And one of the areas that maybe I'm interested in, I think the audience would be. Is first of all whether or not it's relevant, and second of all, the degree of relevancy, which is blogging. And the reason I probably pose it as that is, the pre-AI, so to speak, blogging had a great benefit of having, increasing your ability to be found by Google. So you had to put out great blog articles, show the authority, had the keywords in it, put out the content, and it was a way that people approached, among others, of getting ranked on the search algorithms. Seems like my less than expert opinion is AI takes a little bit of a different approach as to how the black box works, so to speak, in whether and how they determine who has the authority, what they recommend, and how they answer questions. And so I think I'd throw out maybe a two-part question, which is blogging still relevant? And if so, how do I determine if I need a blog, as a startup or a small business?
So blogging is still relevant. And if you like to blog, I think it's a great outlet and a great platform. But if you're not sure or it's not really in your wheelhouse, I do not think it's a good idea. You want to stick to your strengths. If you're not sure, if you want to make that big of a commitment, I would start by joining other people's well-trafficked blogs in your industry and chime in on a regular basis. That way, it's not on you to keep the conversation going. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they feel pressure. Like you said, they see a lot of blogs out there and they feel like they're getting, they're missing out or they're not getting out there the way some of their competitors are. And the risk is you set up a blog and the first week you blog three times and you're super excited about it. And then the next week you're a little busy, you got a lot of balls in the air. You get one blog post up and you don't really get to respond to any comments. The next week you're at a conference or a trade show, you're traveling, you don't even look at the blog, you come back, you're buried in the office, you only get one post up. So unfortunately, you're training your audience to say, I'm flaky. This is not something I'm taking that seriously. I'm going to be here when I'm here. When I'm not, I'm not. And that is not your best face forward. So the worst thing you can do is set up a blog and not be consistent about it. You want to manage your audience's expectations. So if you tell them, I'm going to blog, just a little bit every day, or I'm going to put up 3 blog postings a week, or whatever it is, that's fine. But if you tell them you're going to do that and that's the expectation, you need to deliver on that. And some people are much better responding to conversations where they can come in with 1 or 2 really smart, pithy comments, and then you sign off, you put your contact information at the bottom. And for people who are agreeing with you or want to have more of a conversation, they know where to follow up and find you. And it's much better to be that smart voice on a well-trafficked blog than to be the flaky blogger that is not dependable, and it's just setting up not the best professional reputation. So I'm a big fan of blogging. I think it's great, but you have to kind of know what you're great at, what your strengths are, and stick to your knitting. Um, Today, you probably have seen a lot of content providers and thought leaders do a Substack, and that's kind of a more modern version of a blog, if you will. And as you were saying, search engine optimization is real, it's important, but it's always changing. When it was just Google, when they were the only game in town, they were always updating their algorithm. Now with artificial intelligence, it's not just SEO, it's GEO, it's AEO. And Substack is a great way to get picked up by AI. And again, you got the keywords, you got the hashtags, you know what all the conversations are, and you can get in on them. Substack does an incredibly efficient job of helping you get seen by the robots. So use the tools that you're most comfortable with, leverage all the technology that's out there that's really moving into the next generation. But you can't just do what Google thought was important 2 or 3 years ago, because they've moved on. And again, blogs are great, but they're not great for everybody.
So now it's circling back to I think one thing that piqued my interest when you started, which is, hey, if blogs are for you, still worthwhile, and vice versa, if blogs aren't for you, find a different avenue. And I think that's true. The only maybe follow-up question I would have, or I don't know, pushback, because it's really just a follow-up question. One's if I don't know. So in other words, I've never done a blog. I've thought about it. Maybe somebody's recommended. I'm an okay writer, but I've never done a blog or I've never really written articles. I'm busy with other things. And so maybe I like it, maybe I wouldn't. Is it at that point, do you try it out and see if you like it or not? Or,
I
how do
would
you know if
probably
you blogging is for you or whether you should find a different avenue or just one, try it and see if you like it type of a thing?
So one baby step that you might want to consider is start with a newsletter. And again, it's a platform for content, it's thought leadership. And again, if you want to try it, don't set up a weekly newsletter from day one. That's a big commitment. You can start off bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly. If you like writing and you like sharing thought leadership, um, newsletters, you have a little bit more control, because a lot of people aren't commenting at the bottom of your newsletter. It's not like a blog where people are reading it all the time and they're constantly chiming in. If people are engaging, you want to meet them where they are. You want to pick up those threads, answer their comments and questions. With newsletters, it's more of a one-way street. People may respond, but the expectation is not as much give and take. And if you don't want to start with a newsletter, again, you can look at like-minded organizations in your world that are reaching the same audience that you're reaching. If you're a professional service firm, there are probably other accountants, attorneys, um, consultants that have their own newsletters, and you could ask them, can I contribute an article to your newsletter? Again, putting your toe in the water. If you are contributing to other people's blogs, other people's newsletters, and you enjoy that process and you're disciplined, you can send them a monthly article. You can send them something that their audience is already expecting. Um, that's a great way to just see, are you getting engagement? Are you, do you have a lot of ideas to talk about? Do you feel writer's block? Do you feel stress? Is it giving you anxiety? Are you making promises you can't keep? So again, you crawl before you walk before you run. So I would recommend start with other people's blogs, other people's newsletters. If you want to do your own, set up that expectation with your core audience of how often they're going to hear from you. And again, don't overcommit. You want to underpromise and overdeliver. If you tell them they're going to get something biweekly or monthly, and you end up doing it, on schedule or even a little ahead of schedule, that's great. But if you travel a lot, if your business has a lot of peaks and valleys where you just can't guarantee that you're going to be always on and consistent, start small and then grow as you get more comfort and more traction.
No, I think that's you hit on so many things and a lot of great words of wisdom. Now, maybe just a follow-up question or two just on that. One of the things that I think is maybe hard or otherwise it can be difficult is finding it, as you said, consistency. And I think that going into the shoot says, oh, I could write about X amount, 20 things, I got 100 ideas. And then you start to sit down and you actually start to write it, and you find out you have really like three articles that you feel comfortable or have enough to write on. And then once you do once you write those three articles, you're out of ideas, and it's a flash in the pan. Hey, I started a blog, or I started with maybe a newsletter, and all of a sudden it's no longer going, or it's no longer active, and I kind of, as you said, overcommitted to the audience and probably under delivered. How do you balance, or how do you figure out the cadence, or maybe how often you should and I love the idea, by the way, and I know it's the side note of starting on with on someone else's blog, maybe doing a guest post or two with the offering the value and making sure it commits to the audience that you are doing the guest blogging on. But let's say you do that. How do you make sure that you kind of do have enough content? Do you come up with those 20 ideas before you ever get started? Or is it one where you kind of, take an hour a week and come up with new ideas? Or, any thoughts or guidance on how you kind of get that content that's more consistent?
So there's something in marketing called an editorial calendar. And it's literally pulling out your calendar online or, on paper, and seeing, what is happening over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And you can have seasonal themes. And you can set up, like, in the spring, I want to do a version of spring cleaning for my category. In the summer, I want to do a series of, things that are more summary activities that are related to my business or category. Maybe it's, how to be a great XYZ in those slower months when you're on vacation, around the holidays, around year end. So it helps, I think, to kind of think through in advance. Here are some themes or natural conversations you have at this time of the year, that you can just put a stake in the ground. The other thing is, maybe, you are one of those people that keeps notes on your phone or on your desktop or your phone or your calendar about things that people are asking you, people that you're thinking about in those kind of over the transom conversations with colleagues, with clients, with friends. And I always think if two or three data points in a short amount of time, in a week or two period, if some themes start emerging, I notice my clients or, people that I'm running into are asking the same types of questions. I always have like a parking lot that I kind of keep. Uh, it can be sticky notes. Again, it can be a voice memo on your phone. It could be a running list in a notebook. Um, those are great things you can put in rotation for your editorial calendar. Like, the other thing you have to be kind of aware of, um, you don't want your blog, your newsletter, your thought leadership to be self-promoting always on. I think, people get tired of hearing about, you beating your chest. You want to make sure you're informing people, you're educating people, and that it's also entertaining. It's there that what's in it for them. It's not a platform for you to be beating your chest and bragging and, humble bragging or whatever. People read through that. So if that's all you're using that platform for, it's going to get old pretty fast. And you'll notice there are going to be a lot of unsubscribes or people are not sharing it because it's just too self-promotional. So think about the things that that are intuitive to you, that you do better than anyone else. What is it that's in your sweet spot? What do you do better than your competition? Those are the things that are great to talk about, where you can educate, entertain, and inform people. And, I don't worry so much about giving away too many free ideas or good content, because I think people, if they, if they invite you into their inbox, if they willingly share your content and you're a source of good information, helpful information, they will remember you, they will come back for more, and they will recommend you to others. They'll let people know, Devin's got this great newsletter and I learned something every time I get it. I really think you'll enjoy reading this too. That's gold. If people are putting their reputation on the line and helping expand your market, that is that is what you're hoping for. And if all you're talking about is me, here's what I did, here's what I'm doing, that just gets old. People don't really want to just hear you being self-promoting. It's tiresome.
No, you hit on a ton in there, and I think that one of the things I you know the I this is my personal bias, so less of an expertise. I'm not a big hey, I see an email that or or a blog, and we actually our blog I really do all on LinkedIn. We used to do it more on other formats and that. And I have a good audience. I like to be on LinkedIn, and they have the ability to do a newsletter, and I'll call my blog, and then we'll mirror the content both on our website for directly, but primarily promote it all with LinkedIn. But I always see the emails, and it's basically I see the corporate thing on above, and then it's really just a thinly veiled promotional of, hey, here's the latest interest rates for, getting a mortgage. And oh, by the way, I'm great at getting you mortgages, and it's here's all the reasons why you should do it. And I'm like, well, if it's a promotional thing, it's not really a blog. It's not really in giving me any information that I find helpful or insightful. So I think that you hit on it, and at least mirrors kind of my experience, which is you're going to get most people that they might be patient once or twice, but if you just keep blasting them with a reformatted sales pitch, eventually they're just going to say, hey, even if we're a good connection or I'd use your services, I'm not going to keep with the blog or the newsletter because it's really just not adding that value.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Now, shifting gears just a little bit, I think to follow along with that, man, time's already flying by, and I feel like we just are scratching the surface. I'm already looking at the clock thinking we don't even have time to get through everything. But I do want to touch on one other thing that we talked on just a little bit previously, which I think goes along with what you'd hit on, which is, the social media platforms that you maybe should or shouldn't be on. Like, sometimes you hear you should be on every social media platform, or you should, promoting it every way, and other people to say, hey, just be on one and really focus on that, or identify where your audience is, even though you don't really know where your audience is because you really haven't been on the platforms. In other words, it's, you get a lot of maybe conflicting ideas as to where you might, where you should be on, how much you should be on, and kind of, what you or how you should approach that. So, kind of, what are the thoughts on social media platforms, how you might select which ones you're on, how you should approach being on it? Should you just put the same content on all of them or adjust it? And I know that's like 20 questions in one, but just love to get your thought on kind of selecting maybe kind of the social media platforms that you're on.
So I think one of the big mistakes I see is people spread themselves too thin. They try and be everywhere and talking to everybody. And I think that's a big mistake. I think it's much better, again, to pick your platforms, know where your audience is looking for you, and show up there in an authentic way that's consistent with your strengths. If you like to tweet, then tweet. If you like, to post pictures, and that's really a great platform for you to showcase your talent, Instagram or Pinterest, it depends on what your story is, what's the best way to show it visually, audio. You mentioned LinkedIn. For me, LinkedIn is my platform of choice. I think, in particular, for B2B service businesses, LinkedIn is a professional platform. It's great for thought leadership, as you mentioned. If you're posting on LinkedIn, your audience can see what you're thinking, why you're thinking it. It's very easy to share, and all of your followers and contacts are going to be able to quickly get a snapshot of what you're great at. And so I am a huge fan of LinkedIn. That really is my platform of choice. People are not looking for me on Facebook. Um, that's just, I'm not on I'm not on Instagram. I just don't, X, you know, there's nothing wrong with any platform, but what's wrong about it is using it incorrectly. If you can't be super brief, then you shouldn't be on X. There's a reason why they limit their characters. And if you're trying to be super buttoned up and professional on LinkedIn, then you can't be a hot mess on Facebook, because that's sending out mixed signals. And again, as a professional, you want to be consistent so that you show up on each platform that you're on in a very consistent way. Otherwise, what happens is they don't know which version of you is going to show up for the lunch meeting, for the conference call, for the soccer field, if they see you at the grocery store and you're just completely discombobulated, um, you're just not put together. But on LinkedIn, you look very buttoned up. It's a professional headshot, kind of, you look great, you sound great. And then they see you at the kids' soccer game. And again, you're a mess. And, it's not, you just don't clean up well. That is not going to be a relationship that someone's going to feel super comfortable introducing you to people, or recommending you. They want, it's not like you need to wear a suit and tie to the soccer game, but you should be in a professional kind of casual mode. There's a way to look buttoned up without sending kind of mixed signals. A lot of people on Facebook, they talk about their grandkids or their vacations or their spring breaks. And especially if you're on the job market, for these college grads and people graduating from graduate school, if you've used a lot of your social media for social conversations and you've been doing crazy stuff on the beach, um, playing games and drinking, and you're in your bikinis and Hawaiian shirts and whatever, and that's what people find out about you when they look you up online, maybe not the best impression to make. You only get one chance to make a great first impression. So make sure the stories that are out there on you tell a good story, a professional story, and a consistent story. Um, but don't spread yourself too thin. Think about, where are people looking for you, and what do these different platforms say about you, and do they play to your strengths?
No, I think that's a lot of a great insight and a great takeaway. I think that the only one that I've seen that, sometimes work is if you're not on the platforms at all. The only one that I've, seen work, or at least, from my limited perspective, is sometimes if you're doing like a live webinar, you can do platforms that you can, broadcast what would be a live webinar or a live version of something. And one of the ones that I've seen as an example is Restream, which you can put it out on both YouTube as well as LinkedIn and Facebook, just as an example. And even if your audience is primarily on LinkedIn, it still conveys the same information, the same feel, and you're giving the same approach. And so that one seems to be kind of, if you're maybe looking for a way to not have to post, separately on each of them, but trying to kind of convey the same value and maybe hit a bit of different audiences. One that I've seen at least for some people that tackle an approach. But I think that, the overall takeaway of a lot of times it's one where every audience on every platform is different. Who's on X versus who's on LinkedIn is not going to be the same, and trying to simply treat them all as the same is really going to be a disservice to your brand and to your audience. So I think that definitely makes sense. We're
Yep.
already running through the time clock, and I feel like we could go for another hour, and we'd hit on a lot of good topics, but to try and keep this bite-sized or a bit more manageable. So we'll kind of maybe put a pin in it. Maybe we'll have to have you back on or onto another episode, or even maybe onto the live webinar series at some point. But as we do wrap up today, if people, or I guess before I was going to invite people to ask how to connect with it, but before we do that, I got to ask the question I always like to ask at the end, which is, within your myth or within your industry, what is the biggest myth, and why is it wrong?
So, there are a lot of myths, I think, in marketing. But one of the big ones, we do a lot of communications, public relations. I think in the old days, people believed there's no such thing as bad PR. I don't believe that anymore. I mean, with all the social media and AI out there, you really want to be known for the right reasons, not just, going viral can be a blessing or a curse. If you go viral for a smart reason, a good reason, a clever reason, that's fantastic. But if you do something, kind of shady or not professional, you read these stories sometimes of people putting out these status updates or saying things or posting pictures that are just politically incorrect, crossing a line, using words that are not kind of proper these days. Maybe there was a time back in the day when you could say those things, but you just don't want to be associated with kind of crossing over to a side where you're touching on things that are just not cool. So, I've certainly seen plenty of stories online where somebody, was at the airport about to board an international flight where they were going to be, sleeping for the next 8 or 10 hours. And they get off on the other side of the world and they've been fired because they said something really dumb about their company or their clients or themselves. So I just don't think all PR is good PR. I don't think you like your goal should not be to go viral. Like, be careful what you wish for. Your goal is to be on message, on strategy, saying the right things for the right reasons, and just being known as a trusted brand, as a trusted source, because things can get out of hand really quickly. And, with AI and the deep fakes and whatever, there are plenty of things that can go wrong in the best scenario, but don't create any self-inflicted wounds that are going to come back to haunt you.
Awesome. Well, I think that's definitely a great myth to dispel. And I think to the point, not all PR is good PR, especially not in this day and age. And so I think that's a good takeaway. Well, as people do want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above. What's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
So there are two ways: the website, mavensandmoguls.com, and LinkedIn, Paige Arnof-Fenn, all one word, no hyphen.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, expand their network, make a new connection. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you in the audience, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, go to inventiveunicorn.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things. Make sure to click, share, subscribe. And if along your journey, you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some free time to chat. Well, thank you again for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, Devin. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the great work you're doing too.
Ideas spark like morning dew, fresh and bright, the world feels new. Dreams don't wait, they don't ask twice. Jump the fence, roll the dice. Inventive expert blazing trails, small town dreams with big details. Start it up, let it fly, reach the stars, touch the sky.